So there was a point in my life where I felt completely lost. I was chronically ill. I felt really disconnected and I didn't know where to go in my witchcraft practice. I felt very lost and alone. And I wasn't sure who I was becoming. I was getting older, I was in the menopause, you know, all that fun stuff. But strangely enough, that is exactly when Hecate found me. So this video is not a historical deep dive or a beginner's guide to Hecate or any of that kind of thing. It's about me and my personal relationship with Hecate and how my devotion to her has changed my own spiritual life, this YouTube channel. And I've had a lot of people who've been following me for a while say I seem more myself, I seem more confident, more sure of my practice, and all of that is true. It's all true. You can still spiritually exist, you can still have a relationship with your gods and goddesses, even when you have hardly any spoons and you don't know where to go. So this video is just me talking about that, really, my own personal journey with this goddess who is absolutely incredible. So I really hope that you will grab a cup of tea and maybe a furry creature to sit on your lap. This is Twig, and let's get into it, shall we? So when I first got drawn to Hecate, I was actually in a coven, and it was a very unstable coven, and it was run by somebody who I thought of as a friend but turned out not to be as much of a friend as I thought. And I was really lost at that time. I just started calling myself a witch. I just started making TikTok videos and all that kind of witch talk era, the fun. And I think I was just at this crossroads, this point where I needed to let go of the shame of chronic illness and worrying about what people thought of me and worrying about how I felt about myself, and instead letting go of all that, letting it all, even just my assumptions about the goddess. All I'd heard was she's a dark goddess. Hecate is terrifying, you know, she's really dark, she's really scary, because that's all I really knew about her. As I left that coven, which was really scary, and I looked for comfort, I looked for understanding and connection, which is what I'd been looking for when I joined that coven. I was looking for somebody to lead me, tell me where to go, you know. I was used to Christianity where, you know, you have one person in charge, they kind of tell you what to do and you just kind of do it. And I'd been in cults before, Christian cults, and so I was struggling with just leading myself, and I started to feel Hecate coming into my life. And I'd asked a few people, you know, who's reaching out to me, I feel so, and they kept saying Hecate. Every time they did their stuff to connect and to ask, it was always, it's Hecate. And I remember just being absolutely petrified. The more I felt that drawing of her nearby, I actually didn't feel what I thought I would feel. Even though I knew somehow it was Hecate, I didn't feel this scary looming evilness around me like I'd assumed. I actually felt a real mothering energy and somebody who wanted to guide me, who wanted to be that guide for me. And, you know, the more I started to read about her and how her torch represents light in the darkness and how she guides people on their path, I was like, wow, this is actually exactly what I need. And she just started to feel so right. I started out just by venerating her alongside two other gods that I've worked with for years, Archangel Michael and Diana. And Diana and Hecate are very similar. They have a lot of very similar energy. They have the same feast days and things like that. So it just felt very natural for her to join in. But then as I got to know her more and more and more, I started to realise that I actually just wanted to work with Hecate, which when I look back at that person who was really scared, I think, who is she? You know, how can I possibly feel drawn to this goddess? And yet I do, and I did. It's this slow, natural growth and understanding, and it wasn't an instant poof transformation like I expected. Really, it's been like a long road, and it's something that I feel stretching out long ahead of me as well. But it's that feeling of being guided through in uncertainty, and when I'm struggling, it's that feeling of having somebody holding my hand and guiding me in a motherly way rather than pushing me out into things. And when I started to learn about her leading people, I thought it was kind of a bit more like she'd make it obvious where to go, but it's more like she gives you like several options and then goes, look at all these options and opportunities. What are you going to pick? How my relationship deepened is something that happened very naturally. And as I've found myself wanting to spend more time with her, I have added little bits to my practice that have felt very natural, and the first one is been chanting. Now, I did a lot of chanting over my years, dabbling with like Indian religions like Buddhism, and I'm an omnist, so I like to learn about different cultures and faiths and religions, and I did a lot of yoga in the past, so it just kind of felt natural to be chanting and meditating and all that wonderful magical stuff. But coming back to that recently, I'd been tidying up and I found my old prayer beads, and I was like, you know what would be really cool? Chanting Hecate. How amazing would that feel? So I used my old prayer beads, and it feels so grounding. The repetition, I tend to like rock, and I've got my prayer beads and I'm just kind of going through it. And it feels very comforting and grounding. It lets me feel comforted by the routine of it. But also using the prayer beads to chant her name is a way to connect with her. I do sometimes get like flashes of images and thoughts and emotions that come to me while I'm doing it, and I think that it's going to be a lovely way in time for us to connect, her and I, because it kind of, chanting is great because it shuts down that kind of logical side of your brain, so you can open up to messages. And so even on difficult days, that is something I can do. I can do that in bed. I can put on like a drumming meditation track and just chant her name. Like, I don't even need the prayer beads really. So if you don't have prayer beads, just say her name over and over. Even on days when I can't do much, I can use my voice, and chanting is such a wonderful, wonderful way of connecting and speaking her name. And that kind of devotion, it doesn't need to be elaborate. Devotion doesn't need to be these big massive rituals. It can be small, and chanting feels small, but it's so enveloping that it changes you, and spiritually it changes your relationship with whatever god or goddess that you're working with. It helps you to become softer, and it's very sustainable, which is what I love about chanting. Another thing that I've really been talking about on my social media as well is reading Hecate books as a sign of devotion. So I use 2 books. One is I think it's called Meeting Hecate at the Crossroads by Justin Bennett. I'll leave links to both of these books down below. And the other one is Hecate the Witch by Nikita Gill. And they're both incredible books. The one is like, I read one of the prayers each day and from Justin's book, and they are so tender and beautiful and just so well written. Like, his poetry is so, what do I want to say? It's like having a conversation rather than flouncy words like Shakespeare, for example. His poetry is more like you're just saying what you want to happen, and it just feels very like, this is what I want from you today and this is what's going to happen. And I love that. I love when people are just very direct, so I appreciate that very much. Nikita Gill's book is The reason why I started deepening my practice and concentrating my practice to Hecate, because it helps me to see Hecate as more than just this immortal god, this archetype, this spirit, this unseeable force. It makes her more like I can feel how she's feeling. It makes me appreciate her and understand her journey more. It's like her whole journey, all these myths and legends told in this incredible way. I can't speak higher for it. I love that book so much. And what's amazing about it is that it's giving intentional time to her in a slow way. Like I'm just sitting reading out loud, and our voices are powerful. I think we forget the power of our voices sometimes, because in witchcraft it's, people do these amazing spells online and you see them like burning stuff and powder going everywhere, making these beautiful spell jars, etc. But just using your voice, just speaking words is magic as well. And just the fact that we have our voices, we can speak. It's a beautiful thing. And I would love to be able to speak Greek, so I could speak in Greek to her. I actually feel myself drawn to learning how to speak Greek, and I'm not very good at learning languages, but my ancestors are Greek, Hecate's Greek. I feel called to it. I'm not quite sure what to do with that calling at the moment, but at the moment I'm just letting myself go with the flow and trust. By trusting in the process and not rushing it, I am finding this sacred, gentle, approachable devotion that is just incredible. Just sitting quietly and reading to a god, a goddess. It's just beautiful and it's so accessible. And if you are unable to read, if you're unable to process things in that way, things are available on audiobook. There are podcasts that you can listen to and interviews, and there's so much out there. We are so lucky to live now where there's so much information out there and so many ways of doing things like this. So even on days where all you can do is lie in bed and you can't talk, or you can't take, maybe put your headphones on and listen to a podcast or listen to the audiobook and let that be your devotion. I also have a grimoire that is just specifically for her. I have grimoires for nearly everything that I've studied or been interested in, and I write notes in them all the time. What I love about having a book that is specifically for Hecate is that I can look things up online and write them in the book with a link, and I can make it look pretty, but it means everything's in that one place. I don't have to waste spoons or waste energy looking online for a particular spell that I found, or a meditation that I saw, or a poem that touched me, or a mythology, or a picture, or whatever it is. I don't have to look around for it. It's in that one book. And I love just sitting for maybe 10 minutes and writing in that book, looking things up. If something intrigues me or I hear somebody talk about something, I can look it up and take notes. That's incredible. Learning as devotion, writing things out as devotion, painting pictures as devotion. These are all really ways of allowing your practice to evolve naturally, but also allowing your practice to be where you are today. Not where you want to be, not where you were 5 years ago, but where you are today. And for me, with my memory issues, writing everything in one place, with my fatigue issues, having everything in one book, it just really helps so much. And if you would like me to do a video or a short about that book, let me know and it can be done. What I love about these things that I do, these small little accessible things, is that it teaches me that devotion doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be about doing what other people are doing, but it's about building that slow connection, that trust. Going from being terrified of a deity to loving them is not going to happen overnight. You can try and tell yourself, oh, I'm not afraid of that deity, oh, I'm not scared. But then the truth is that your body and your brain hold on to things. And so when you're scared of, like, I've been scared of spirits my whole life, then going, I want to work with my ancestors deeper, and starting having things happening in the house, like things falling over and stuff dropping and noises and bangs and things. If those things had started before I was ready, I would have been terrified, so terrified, and I would have shut everything down. By working with Hecate and by working with my ancestors, I've learnt to trust. And so if you want to work with a god or a goddess or a spirit and you're nervous and you're scared, you're not going to get out of that relationship what you could get. And so slow down. You know, if something is going too far or happening too fast, you can slow it down at any moment. And that is something that has really given me a lot of trust and a lot of comfort. I'll be honest though, devotion on low spoon days looks very different to devotion on a day where I'm feeling good. Like today I'm feeling good and I got to do all of the things that I've been telling you about, every single one. But a lot of us who are disabled or chronically ill, we turn to social media because we want to learn from other witches, other spiritual teachers and other people who have chronic illnesses. And so we turn to social media because often we're stuck in the house, we can't work, we can't leave the house very often, etc. That for me is very true. Quite often though, when we see witches practicing online, they're these big things. They're these, you know, make a spell jar with me, poof, 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 and all this stuff goes into the spell jar. And it's like, then do this, then do that. And it's like, whoa, you do all that in one go? That's like 3 days work for me. Chronic illness changes what our practice looks like. And I think some days our devotion needs to be small and quiet. We need to remember that maybe we can't make the spell jar ourselves, but can we order it online? Can we buy it from another witch? If we can't make that oil ourselves, can we buy it online? The answer is yes. There are many witches who have their own shops online and we can buy from them, and that's amazing. Or we can draw something, or we can just be there. Devotion isn't about these big things. It's about being there every day. It's about devoting time and energy to something that you love. And what demands that more than a god or goddess? I think sometimes we can put a lot of pressure on ourselves for our craft to look like that person's craft. And that is the downside of social media, following witches who don't have fatigue issues or who aren't chronically ill or aren't disabled. There's not many disabled witches out there who make it very obvious that they are disabled in a way that makes it more accessible, you know? So let's break it down. What can devotion look like? It can be the small things that I've already spoken about. It can be having an LED candle that you've drawn a rune on or printed out a picture and stuck it on with some glue. It can be sitting near an altar. It can be lying in bed and whispering prayers. It can be things like, yesterday I was really angry. I was angry at a family member who has not been looking after themselves, and I've been doing everything I can to help and support that person, and it's just been really hard. So I got in the shower, full of rage and anger and hurt and worry and all the things. And I let the water cascade over me and I let out a breath and I just said, Hecate, I give this anger to you. Please take it away and reuse it in the underworld for my ancestors. Please take this anger. I can't cope with it. And then fill me up with good, strong, light energy, strength to keep going. And she answered that prayer. It was that simple. I needed to have a shower anyway. I needed to let go of that anger. So why not give it as an offering? I also sometimes give pain as an offering or fatigue as an offering. I've even given a nap as an offering before. And generally speaking, they are received. very, very much, because they know that that's all I have to give. And if all you have to give is that, then I'm giving 100%. A small thing that I also do is I have a bracelet that I bought online. I'll leave a link to it down below. Not sponsored or anything, I just bought it off Etsy. And it's really beautiful. It's got it's got amethyst and tourmaline. It's got a little wolf and a little key on it. And every day I put this bracelet on and I say, please connect me to Hecate today. Or you could charm a ring or something for her. Whatever it is, those little things matter more than perfection, more than pushing your body to do things that you're not able to do or that you're not well enough to do. Because our gods and goddesses, our ancestors, don't want us to be ill. They don't want us to be sick. They don't want us to push ourselves too far. They love us and they want us to have good lives. And so by pushing ourselves too far, we're not showing devotion. We're actually just following what society keeps saying, and that is not right. We know it's not right. So why would we give that as devotion instead of giving what we have and what we are able to? I think releasing guilt is so important. Adapting your spirituality and your spiritual practice to fit your actual life instead of what you wish your life was, and making devotion that's simple and small, and realizing that it's just as important to your god and goddess or your ancestors or whatever spirit you're working with as a massive ritual that's taken days to think up and involves loads of people and 1,000,001 candles that we see at these big festivals, right? They don't see it as big and small. They see it as this person is giving their time and their devotion. And that's what matters to those spirits, because they don't know what money means, really. They don't understand human things. They just know the love that we have and the emotion and what we're giving, what we are trying to do, and our beliefs. And you are seen by your God, no matter how small or how adaptive your practice needs to be. You're still a witch and you're still worthy of following a God. You just are. Recently I have been struggling very much with my fatigue, and returning to my altar room upstairs has been a big thing that I've been kind of working towards. I've managed to grab, like, you know, turn on my candles at night on my altars and like say, I'm so sorry I haven't been here, I've not been well, and feeling really guilty, and then reminding myself that the things I say here to you guys, they apply to this witch too. It's letting go of the pressure, it's letting go of the perfectionism, and just slowly reconnecting, turning up when I can, being there and showing that I'm crawling my way back, like, you know, I'm there, I'm doing it, I'm gonna get there. And I have so many ideas in this head for videos that I can't do because I'm not well enough. And I think coming back to these sorts of videos where I'm just sat talking to you instead of making art and doing crazy things like thrift haul, you know, come thrift with me and stuff, I've had to adapt my channel and my practice to fit with where I am. And as you can see, I'm very pale and pasty today and I'm not feeling well at all. But in future weekly vlogs, which usually come out on a Monday, I'll be sharing me coming back to my sacred space and how I'm coming back to who I am. I feel like this flare of fatigue is slowly ebbing away, and I'm chomping at the bit to show you all how I'm coming back to life. I'm not going to sing Evanescence. I'm really not. I'm not. Don't do it. Don't do it. So make sure you're subscribed and all of that good stuff. Ring that little bell so that you don't miss my weekly vlogs where I share my life as a disabled witch. What I want you to know is that Hecate did not magically come into my life and fix it. My life is not perfect. Nobody's life is, no matter what they make it look like on social media. Nobody's practice is perfect. I am still chronically ill. I am still disabled. and those difficult days where you can't be at your altar or where you want to be, they still happen. Hecate also isn't always a tower moment, although I have been kind of going through a bit of a tower moments recently with the menopause, and I've talked about that before, so I'll leave a link to that down below. But through her relationship, I've learned that spirituality doesn't fix things, and it doesn't make your life perfect, and it doesn't have to be perfect to be meaningful. I've learned to trust myself more, to be where I am today, rather than trying to be something I'm not, or trying to force myself or push myself too far. I think I've learned to rest and to slow down and to not feel guilty about it. So let me know in the comments, has a spiritual practice or a God connection or a moment of connection happened that has quietly changed your life? Not a big, massive moment, but just something small where it's clicked and you've thought, oh, actually, this is what I needed today. Let me know in the comments, because I love learning and growing alongside you all. And I hope that you enjoyed this video. I've really enjoyed talking about these topics and talking about chronic illness and disability as a witch, and how we are all valid. You are valid. So don't forget, if you enjoyed this video, to leave it a cheeky like, comment and subscribe. All these things are free, and they let me know and the YouTubeverse know that you enjoyed the video, and it'll share it out just that little bit more. Take care everyone, have a wonderful magical week, and I'll see you in my next video. Goodbye.